Hey everybody, good to see you. Even though I can't really see you. You're just a little camera hole right there. I hope you're doing okay at home. Hope you're feeling okay. If not, hang in there. I don't know what else to say. I just hope hope you get better soon. Um, we miss you here at school. So this is going to be, I feel like I say this every time, but this is going to be probably a little bit shorter video because I'm just going to do one problem with you, and I'll explain why here in just a second. Let me go ahead and get this part of this other camera working here. So the last video that I made, we did a 2x2 system of equations. So let me find where we left off here, and I'll show you what we're going to do in this video. So we were learning the Gauss-Jordan method for solving a system of equations. And in the last video, we took an equation with a system of two equations and two variables. That's what I call a 2x2 system. And we solved it using this Gauss-Jordan method, which involved writing the system as an augmented matrix and then using these row operations to finally reach this matrix that had ones down the main diagonal here, zeros in the other places, and then we were able then to kind of read that first row as x equals 5, and the second row reads as y equals -3, and that's our solution. Now in class today, today is Monday, November 2nd. I don't know when you're watching this, but in class today, we're going to spend a lot of time learning how to use our graphing calculators to help us do these row operations so that you don't have to do all of the arithmetic in your head. Also in class on a previous day, we did a 3x3 system in class, but today we're going to do that using the graphing calculators. Now, if you're at home, the chances are you probably don't have one of those graphing calculators to use at home. So it doesn't really make sense for me to make a video about using the graphing calculator. That's something that once you come back to school, you'll just need to come see me in person, and it won't take long for me to go through and show you how to do that. But since I haven't done a 3x3 system on a video yet, I thought that's what we would do today. So I'm going to turn to example E in this section, and we're just going to do this one problem on the video today, and that'll be the rest of it. If you go and look at the notes that I have posted online, the key to the notes where everything's filled out, you've got that first one we did already. You've got this 2x2 system that's all worked out. You've got another 2x2 up here that had no solution because these zeros in the bottom. There is a 3x3 system here, example D, that you can go through and kind of follow the steps. And then we are going to do example E together right now in this video. So this is our first 3x3 system on the video, and then that's all we're going to do. And I'll teach you how to do the graphing calculator stuff when you get back. Just let me know, and we'll find a way to make that happen, okay? Let me there we go, that looks good. So the first thing we need to do is to set up our matrix, our augmented matrix. I want to make sure that all my x's and y's and z's are all lined up. So in each equation, x is first, y is second, z is third. In this second equation, I notice I'm missing a y, so I'm going to keep that in mind. And the third equation goes x, y, z. Okay, so we're in good shape here. When we set up our augmented matrix, we just take the coefficients. So there's a 2, a -5, a 4, and then an equal, so I'll put that vertical line, and then there's the 8. Okay, in the second row, I've got 2x. Now there's no y's, and that middle column there is the y column, so I'll just put a 0 for 0y. Then you've got a 2 for 2z, and then a 4. Last row is -1, -2, 1, and 2. Okay, so what are we trying to do here? What's our goal? Well, if I flip back a page, you can see here we talked about how when we did a 2x2 system, this was our goal. So now with a 3x3, this is what we're trying to accomplish here. We want to get ones along that main diagonal. And I know some of you are at home right now who were at school when we did a 3x3, and now you're at home, so this is just more practice for you. The goal when we're solving this thing is to get the zeros in the right place. And really you can do that in lots of different ways, but I'm going to try to show you the quickest, easiest way to do it. So we want to work down the column. We'll get this 0 first, and then we'll get this 0. Go to the next column and work from top to bottom, get this one and then this one. We go to the next column, get this one and this one. So we're going to get this 0 first, this 0 second, this one third, this one fourth, this one fifth, and then that one sixth. So we work left to right, top to bottom, getting those zeros in place. So we'll go back to our problem here, example E. Okay, so the first number that I want to create a 0 is going to be this 2 right here. Remember, the numbers in that main diagonal are going to end up being 1s. And actually, they can be any number. The last step is when we'll make that diagonal become a bunch of 1s. Until then, we just don't want any zeros on the main diagonal. We want to get zeros everywhere else. So we'll start with this 2, and I have to decide on a row operation to make this 2 become a 0. Now, first of all, that 2 is in the second row, so I'm going to write down that I'm changing the second row. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the number in the second row, and I'm going to add it to twice the number in the third row. You can see that if I double this -1, it'll become a -2. And now if I add the 2 and the -2, I'll get my 0. And that's what this is all about, is creating zeros. Okay, let's come down here in the next line. We're going to recopy the rows that are unaffected by this row operation. So that would be the first row and the third row. I'm going to recopy those, and I'm going to do my row operation. So I take the second row and I add twice the third row. So this would be 2 plus -2 gives me my 0. 0 plus -4, remember I'm doubling this number. So 0 plus -4 gives me a -4. 2 plus 2 gives me 4. And 4 plus 4 gives me 8. Okay, again, remember I'm doubling that number in row 3 and adding it to the number in row 2. Okay, look, I got that 0 right where I wanted it. The next number I want to go after is the number right below that, which is that -1. Okay, I want to cause that to become a 0 now. So I'm changing the number in the third row. And let's think of how I could do that. I want to create a 0 here, and I really can only use the numbers above and below it. All I can do is multiply a whole row or add 2 rows together. Those are my only legal moves. What if I doubled this number, made that a -2, and then added it to the top number? See how that 2 and this -2 would cause me to have a 0. So let's take the number in the first row, and we'll add to that, and we'll double the number in row 3. Okay, we'll double this number and add it to row 1. So let's recopy the rows that are not affected by this row operation. That's the first row and the second row. Okay, and let's do our row operation. So remember, I'm doubling the number in the bottom row. So I'll take 2 plus -2 gives me my 0. Okay, move on to the next one. -5 plus -4, because I'm doubling this. -5 plus -4 is -9. 4 plus 2 gives me 6. 8 plus 4 gives me 12. You'll notice that when I came up with this row operation, I was only worried about this first column, right? How can I create a 0 here? And then I just do that same row operation to the rest of the matrix, and those numbers just kind of work out however they work out. All right, now I'm going to notice that I got these 2 zeros here. See those 2 zeros I got in place? And if we go back and look at that goal, remember I said we wanted to get this 0 first and this 0 second. Okay, now I'm going to go after this number at the top of the second column. So that would be this -5. Now this is going to be a little bit tougher of a step. And there's multiple ways that you can do this. There's not just one correct way. I'm just trying to do it the easiest way, but there's more than one right way you can do this. So we're going to change the number in row 1. So we're going to indicate that here. Let's see. Well, you know what? Before I even do that, I have a different idea. This is just an opportunity to show you a step that is kind of optional, but can be really helpful. So I'm actually not going to go. I'm not going to go for that -5 yet, so ignore that green box. If you look at this second row, I have a -4 and a 4 and an 8. There's a way that I can make those numbers smaller. See, in the third row, I have a 9, 6, and a 12. You see how all these numbers are divisible by 3? All these numbers are divisible by 4. If you want to, at any point, you could take a whole row, like row 2, and say multiply it by a 4th. See what's going to happen if I multiply everything in this second row by a 4th? These are all divisible by 4. It's like dividing them all by 4. How about the third row? I could take everything in row 3 and multiply it by a 1/3, or divide all of these numbers by 3. Now, this step isn't required, it's not necessary, but it can be a way to make the problem a little bit easier, even though it does cause kind of an extra step. So you have an extra step to do, but it's going to make your numbers easier to deal with. So I'm going to take everything in the second row here and divide it by 4. I'll give me a 0, a -1, a 1, and a 2. I'm going to take everything in the third row and divide it by 3. So that would give me a 0 here, and a -3, and a 2, and a 4. And now my numbers are just a little bit easier to deal with. You don't have to do that, but it can be helpful too. Okay, now let's see about causing that -5 to become a 0. Let's see what we could do here. So I'm changing the number in row 1. It's a -5. Well, that means I need a +5 from one of the other rows. So I can get a +5 to go with this -5, and that'll give me a 0. Look at that second row there. I've got a -1. What if I take the number in the second row and multiply it by -5? This -1 times a -5, this will become +5. I can then add that to the number above it, the -5, to create my 0. Okay, let's see how that works. So I'm going to change row 1. So let's recopy the rows that are unaffected. It's the second row and the third row. Let's do our row operation. So we're going to take -5 times the number in row 2, and we're going to add that to the number in row 1. That's going to become our new first row. So 0 times -5 is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. And then we'll move on. -1 times -5 is 5. And then 5 plus -5 is 0. We'll move on. 1 times -5 is -5. -5 plus 4 is -1. Lastly, 2 times -5 is -10. -10 plus 8 is -2. Excellent. Okay, we got that 0 into place. Let's look at the next one that we're supposed to get. We got this 0. The next one we want to get is this 0 down here at the bottom of the second column. And so that's this guy right here. So let's think about what row operation would allow us to create a 0 in this position. So the number I'm trying to change is in the third row. So I'm going to change row 3. There's a 0 at the top. That's not going to be helpful. I'm going to have to use this -1. I need this to be a +3, so I can add it to -3 and get 0. So I'm going to take the number in row 2 and multiply it by -3. -1 times -3 will give me a +3, and that'll go with my -3 to make 0. So I'm going to add the number below it in row 3. Okay, let's recopy the rows that we're not changing, which is the first row and the second row. And let's do our row operation on row 3. I'm taking the number in the second row, multiply it by -3, add the number below it. So 0 times -3 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. Moving on. -1 times -3 is 3. 3 plus -3 is 0. Next, 1 times -3 is -3. -3 plus 2 is -1. And then 2 times -3 is -6. -6 plus 4 is -2. Excellent. We got that 0 where we want it. Our next one is the 0 at the top of the third column. So that's going to be this guy right here. This is going to be an easier one. So the number we're changing is in row 1. We're going to change row 1. There's a -1 there. You see how there's a +1 right below it? That's so tempting, guys, to add row 1 and row 2, but look what's going to happen. You would lose this 0 here. You add row 1 and row 2, you're going to lose that 0. It's going to become a -1. What we're going to have to do is take row 1 and subtract row 3, because see how these zeros here aren't going to affect each other? So if I take this -1 and subtract -1, that would be -1 plus 1, which would give me a 0 there. So let's recopy row 2 and row 3. Okay, let's do our row operation to come up with our new row 1. Remember, I'm doing the first row minus the third row. So 2 minus 0 is 2. 0 minus 0 is 0. -1 minus -1 is -1 plus 1, which is 0. -2 minus -2 would also be 0. Okay, good. We've got one more 0 to get, and it is this 0 in the middle of this third column. And so it's this guy right here. This is going to be the easiest one yet. Okay, so the number that we're trying to change is in row 2. And it'll be really easy to do that. We're just going to add row 2 and row 3. The 1 and the -1, that'll give me a 0. So I'm just going to add row 2 and row 3. Okay, let's recopy the first and the third rows. Okay, and let's do our row operation. Second row plus third row. 0 plus 0 is 0. -1 plus 0 is -1. 1 plus -1 is 0. 2 plus -2 is 0. So I wanted to share something with you real quick. I just paused the video to double check my work so far because the answer that I'm about to get is different from the answer that I have in the key that I posted, which I'm going to have to fix and re-upload. But I went and looked at that, and I just had one little minor arithmetic error in the key that I originally did. See, I got -2, 10, 8 here, which is not the solution that we're going to get. I made a little arithmetic error there. It's no big deal. It's just adding 2 numbers, and it's just a simple mental mistake, and it causes me to get the total wrong answer. And I'll go back and fix that and repost it. But it just shows how important it is to be really careful with the work that you're doing here. One little mistake can just mess everything up. Okay, last step. We've got all the zeros that we were trying to get. The only numbers that are not zeros are the numbers in this main diagonal here. And if you go back and look at our goal, the numbers in the main diagonal are supposed to be 1s with 0s everywhere else. Now, I need to make these numbers into 1s instead of a 2, a -1, and a -1. And this is the easiest step to do that. This first row, this 2, can become a 1 if I just multiply row 1 by a half, or just divide by 2. The second row, I would just need to make everything negative, so I'll just do the opposite of row 2 to make that -1 into a +1, or in other words, just multiply that whole row by -1. Same thing with row 3. I'll just do the opposite of row 3. And now my matrix becomes, let's see, I'm dividing all of these by 2. So that would be 1, 0, 0, 0. Here I'm multiplying by -1. So 0, 1, 0, 0. Here I'm multiplying by -1. So 0, 0, 1, 2. And now you can see those 1s along that main diagonal. As soon as you've done that, you're in good shape. And so it means in the first row, remember, this is the X column, Y column, Z column. So 1X equals 0, 1Y equals 0, and then 1Z equals 2. So these numbers here will become your solutions for X, Y, and Z. So we get 0, 0, 2 as our solution. All righty, good deal. That's all I'm going to do today. I just wanted to, I thought we would at least just work through a 3x3 together. You have to practice this. You've got to practice it. So try another one on your own. You might struggle through it a little bit. That's okay. If you want to use my key as a guide, not for example E, I'm going to go back and double check the rest of these and make sure I didn't make any other errors, but I'll repost if I do. if I do find any, but you've got to practice this and get the hang of it. And I'll show you how to use your calculator to help limit those little mistakes when you get back to school. Okay, that'll be it. Have a great day today. I hope you're feeling okay and not feeling too pent up. It's not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. See you back here when I see you. Bye.